At this time, we want to bring up someone on stage who has been a volunteer for us and helped out with Passport to Manhood and provided a mentorship role for many young people. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Adam Hooten.
Good morning. Good morning. That's better. I just want to know what the heck you guys are doing here so early this morning. It's got to be the free breakfast and the hot coffee, but that's for you to decide. To be honest with you, that's what got me here last year. 1 year ago, I sat where you are, trying to figure out what I was doing at this breakfast. When I was asked to be a table captain, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I didn't know anything about the Boys and Girls Club, what it had to offer, the staff, or the kids. But when Kathy Sears asked me to be a table captain, round up my friends and colleagues, and attend this breakfast, I thought, what the heck? Fast forward to today, and I can tell you that it was one of the best personal decisions that I've ever made. Being a table captain gave me the opportunity to tour the Boys and Girls Club, which is connected to Beardsley Elementary School. And if you haven't had the opportunity to do so, I highly encourage it. You will be impressed. I instantly knew that I wanted to get involved at the club. I just didn't know where. I just didn't know how. And the more that I was there, the more I was impressed with all of the facilities and the staff. But what I was most excited to see that day on my tour were the kids and the smiles on their faces. Everyone waved hello to me in the hallway, but they knew that I was an unfamiliar face in the building. As I asked questions about how I could get involved, Passport to Manhood came up. Passport to Manhood represents a targeted effort to engage young boys in discussion and activities that reinforce character, leadership, and positive behavior. Each participant receives a passport to underscore the notion that he is on a personal journey of maturity and growth. There are 14 sessions, one held each week, that use interactive activities to focus on a specific aspect of character and manhood. As I learned more about Passport, I knew this is where I wanted to get involved. You see, I have 4 daughters at home, and for me to be able to have guy time once a week, you could sign me up for it anytime. Over the next several weeks, I would go into the Boys and Girls Club just to hang out with the boys. We would play pool, video games, and they took great joy in beating me in basketball. I was labeled the slow old guy with dress shoes on every Wednesday. I had a lot of work to do to build their trust and their confidence in me, but before we could dive into the Passport program. Week after week, I would show up, and they soon started to recognize who I was and why I was there. Once school started and, those beginning of the year jitters and the excitement all got kind of worn out, there were a group of young men that were selected to be part of our Passport program. As I look around this room today, I see some of those young men that were involved in our group. And I encourage you to ask them how their experiences were in the Passport program. Each week of Passport was a little bit different topics. They ranged anywhere from talking about careers, to diversity, to self-esteem, to how to treat a lady. Some of these topics were very heavy, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into or what to expect. I thought I was just going to show up with my agenda, sit these boys down, and have them spill their hearts to me. Boy, was I wrong. It didn't take me long to realize that Candy was my very best friend every Wednesday afternoon. Bribery, you got it. If it worked at home, it was going to work with these boys as well. I didn't want this to be all about just sitting down and talking. I needed to get these boys up and moving a little bit. So I decided to teach them a couple of new things that I didn't think they would have ever been exposed to. We learned how to play paper football the old school way. And as you saw from the video earlier, we learned how to do a proper handshake and how to do a paper airplane. We even went outside one session and played football on the playground. Thank goodness they let me be all-time quarterback because Those kids are fast. With all of the weeks that were going by, Reuben had an idea of taking these boys out to dinner, a wrap-up and celebration of sorts. As the weeks went on, I started to plant the seed to the boys and told them that we were going to have dinner as their graduation ceremony. They were very excited, and everyone wanted to know where we were going. There were a couple of conditions, though. The boys had to attend the majority of the passport sessions, and they had to be in good standings with the Boys and Girls Club. Reuben then came up with an idea to purchase a shirt and tie for every one of the boys, not just to have for dinner that night, but to take home with them. If you could have been in that room when we were putting shirts and ties on and saw the smiles, not to mention the swagger that was going on, it was a sight that I will never forget. We decided to stay local and go to Antonio's Italian restaurant, where the boys, they got to have anything they wanted to. All of them had salads and appetizers and desserts, and many of them had steak and salmon as their main course. I mean, it was a celebration. During dinner, multiple patrons came up to our table and wanted to know all about these well-behaved boys in their shirts and ties. We told them their story. We told them our story. The highlight of the night for the boys was when Reuben pulled out a wallet, and he gave a wallet to each of these young men. And in that wallet contained $1. Their faces lit up with joy and smiles. And as we said that evening, every young man should have a wallet with at least $1 in it. Shortly before we were ready to leave, another patron came up to the table after she had noticed the wallet exchange. She then handed each boy another $1 bill for their wallet. Now, this may not be a lot to you or I, but to these boys it meant the world. It meant the world to them that there were people out there who noticed them, who noticed how well-behaved, polite, and respectful they were that night. The whole 14 weeks, though, were summed up with one small gesture that evening. One of the young men at dinner that night, George Cruz, reached into his wallet and pulled out one of his dollar bills that he was just given. George noticed the tip jar on the counter, on the to-go counter as we were walking out, and he stuffed that dollar bill in there. No hinting, no asking, no prompting. This made my night and made me realize how special and important the Boys and Girls Club is to someone like George Cruz. I know that George, stand up, George. Good job. I'm very proud of you. So George got to sit with me today, which was a surprise, so this kind of worked out well. Now, I can't sit here and tell you that because of Passport to Manhood, these young men were well behaved that evening. But what I can tell you is that because of the Boys and Girls Club, these young men and the young ladies are given an opportunity to excel. But they can't do it without us. They can't do it without our help. They need our help to continue these types of programs and others at the Boys and Girls Club. So I challenge you today, just like George Cruz did, reach into your wallet and please consider investing in the Boys and Girls Club. I know I will be doing so again. Table captains, if you could please pass out the pledge cards that you see in the blue envelope around to everybody at your table. And there's a couple of ways to donate on there. But also don't forget to check some of the volunteer boxes if you're interested in volunteering at the club. You won't go away unsatisfied. Once you have completed these forms, you can put them back in the envelopes and collect them at the blue envelopes with the table captains. I want to thank you for allowing me to share my story today with you. And thank you for all of your investment in helping the Boys and Girls Club of Elkhart County. We can't do it without you. Thank you.